My sister begged, "Please, don't come to my wedding." "Why?" I asked. She sighed. "I don't want people to know you're just a cleaner." My mother added coldly, "We'll say you're dead. Never contact us again." I left in tears. On the wedding day, my phone wouldn't stop ringing. Calls from my sister, my mother, my relatives. What happened? I still remember the exact shade of lipstick my sister wore when she told me I wasn't welcome at her wedding. Coral pink. The kind that's supposed to look natural but costs $60 a tube. She'd applied it carefully in my bathroom mirror, using my counter space, my good lighting, while I made her the coffee she'd requested the moment she walked through my door. "Ashley," she said, turning to face me with that practiced smile she'd perfected over the years. "We need to talk about the wedding." My chest tightened. I'd already bought my dress, nothing fancy, just something appropriate from a department store. Navy blue, 3/4 sleeves, the kind that wouldn't draw attention but wouldn't embarrass anyone either. I'd been careful about that. "What about it?" I set her mug down on the small kitchen table, the one I'd found at a garage sale, and refinished myself. "I don't think it's a good idea for you to come." The words hung there between us like smoke. I waited for her to laugh, to say she was joking, but her expression remained fixed. Pleasant. Detached. "I don't understand." She sighed, the way you might with a child who keeps asking why. "Kevin's family is very established. His mother sits on 3 charity boards. His father golfs with a state senator. They have certain expectations." "Expectations about what?" "About who we associate with." She picked up her coffee, took a delicate sip. "They don't need to know that my sister is just a cleaner." The word landed like a slap. Just. As if those 5 letters could summarize my entire existence, reduce everything I'd worked for into something small and dismissible. "I manage a cleaning service," I said quietly. "I own the business." "Ashley, please. You clean houses. That's the reality." She set down her mug with a soft click. "Kevin's colleagues will be there. His boss. People who could advance his career. The last thing we need is someone asking what you do for a living and having to explain that my sister scrubs toilets." I felt my face grow hot. I built that business from nothing. I have 12 employees now. I'm not trying to hurt you. But her tone suggested otherwise, suggested I was being difficult by simply existing in a way that inconvenienced her. "I'm being practical. This is the biggest day of my life, and I need everything to be perfect. So I just don't come to my own sister's wedding. It's better this way. Trust me." I wanted to argue, to make her see how absurd this was, but something in her face stopped me. A coldness I'd seen before but never directed so precisely at me. Growing up, Melissa had always been the golden child, prettier, smarter, destined for better things. Our parents had made that clear in 1,000 subtle ways. She'd gone to college on their dime while I'd worked 2 jobs to pay for community college classes I eventually dropped out of. She'd gotten their financial support when she moved to the city, while I'd scraped together first and last month's rent by cleaning houses on weekends. But I'd never thought she saw me the way they did. I'd believed the late-night phone calls where she'd complained about her job meant we were still close. That I mattered to her. "Does Mom know about this?" I asked. Something flickered across her face. "We discussed it. And? She agrees it's for the best." Melissa stood, smoothing down her designer jeans. "She's going to tell people you're living abroad. Working in Europe. Something vague like that." "You mean she's going to lie?" "We're going to make this easier for everyone." She picked up her purse, checked her reflection one final time in the mirror by my door. "Don't take it personally, Ashley. It's just how things have to be." After she left, I sat at my kitchen table for an hour, staring at the cooling coffee she hadn't finished. The apartment was quiet except for the hum of the refrigerator and the muffled sounds of my neighbor's television through the thin walls. I'd lived here for 6 years, had slowly made it mine despite the peeling paint and the radiator that clanked. I'd been proud of it. Of everything I'd built. Just a cleaner. The conversation with my mother happened 2 days later. She called while I was reorganizing my supply closet, taking inventory of the industrial-strength products that had become as familiar to me as my own reflection. "Melissa told me you two talked," she said without preamble. She did. I wedged my phone between my shoulder and ear, continuing to count bottles of hardwood floor polish. 43. 44. "I hope you understand why this is necessary." "Actually, I don't." My mother made a small sound of impatience. "Don't be dramatic, Ashley. You've always been so sensitive about these things. About being excluded from family events? About your station in life? Her voice sharpened. Some people are meant for certain paths. Melissa worked hard to get where she is. She went to university. She has a real career. She's marrying well. You made different choices. 47. 48. I made choices based on what I could afford. We all have obstacles. Melissa overcame hers. She didn't wallow. The bottles blurred in front of me. I set down my clipboard. You paid for her education. You gave her money when she needed it. We invested in her future because she showed promise. You dropped out of school. You work with your hands. There's no shame in it, but there's also no reason to parade it in front of people who matter. People who matter, I repeated. You know what I mean. Kevin's family is important. They have connections. This wedding is about building bridges, creating opportunities. Your presence would raise questions we don't want to answer. I thought about hanging up. About ending this conversation and never speaking to her again. But something kept me on the line, maybe the small, desperate hope that she'd suddenly realize what she was saying. That maternal instinct would kick in, however belatedly. So what do you want me to do? I asked. Don't come to the wedding. Don't contact Melissa during her honeymoon. In fact, she paused, and I could hear her breathing, could imagine her in her pristine living room with its cream-colored furniture and its complete absence of family photos that included me. It might be better if you didn't contact us at all. We'll tell people you're living abroad. That you're happy. That way there's no confusion, no awkward explanations. You want me to pretend I'm dead. Don't be so dramatic. We're simply giving you a fresh start. No ties, no expectations. You can live your life however you want, and we can move forward without complications. The line went quiet. I realized she was waiting for me to agree, to make this easy for her the way I'd made everything easy for them my entire life. The way I'd faded into the background at family dinners, had smiled through their thinly veiled criticisms, had pretended not to notice when they forgot my birthday 3 years in a row. Okay, I said. Okay? I won't come. I won't contact you. You'll never have to explain me to anyone. She exhaled, relieved. I think this is best for everyone. You'll see. Sometimes distance creates clarity. After she hung up, I sat in my supply closet surrounded by bottles and brushes and the chemical smell of industrial cleaner. I cried for maybe 10 minutes, hard, ugly sobs that left my throat raw. Then I wiped my face, stood up, and got back to work. The next 3 months passed in a blur of routine. I threw myself into my business with single-minded focus. I'd started Ashley's Cleaning Solutions 5 years ago with nothing but a used vacuum cleaner and a determination to never rely on anyone else again. I built it client by client, learning the business side through YouTube videos and library books, treating every house like it was my own. By the time Melissa's wedding rolled around, I had contracts with 3 luxury apartment buildings and a small office complex. I'd hired 2 more employees and bought a second van. My business was growing, steady and real in mine. I didn't think about the wedding. Or I tried not to. I deleted the calendar reminder. I worked late that Saturday, personally handling a deep clean for a new client, a penthouse owned by someone whose name I recognized from local news. A tech entrepreneur who'd sold his startup for an amount that made my head spin. His assistant had scheduled the appointment. Mr. Chen is very particular, she'd warned. If he likes your work, he tends to be generous with referrals. I arrived at 7 in the morning with my best team members, Maya, who had an eye for detail that bordered on supernatural, and Jordan, who could make any surface gleam like it had never been touched. We worked methodically through the sprawling apartment, all glass and chrome and windows that overlooked the city like a kingdom. Around noon, I was on my hands and knees in the master bathroom, scrubbing grout with a precision that probably wasn't necessary but felt satisfying, when my phone buzzed in my pocket. I ignored it. It buzzed again. And again. You gonna get that? Maya called from the bedroom. Probably spam. But the buzzing continued, insistent and increasingly frantic. I finally pulled out my phone, my gloved hands leaving streaks on the screen. 15 missed calls. 23 text messages. All from numbers I deleted but still recognized. Melissa, call me back now. Mom, where are you? Why aren't you answering? Aunt Linda, Ashley, please pick up, this is serious. Unknown number, this is your cousin Beth. Your family is trying to reach you. It's an emergency. My first thought was that someone had died. My second was that I didn't care, which shocked me with its venom. But I called Melissa back anyway, stepping out onto the balcony where the city noise would muffle my voice. She answered on the first ring. "Where the heck have you been?" "Working." "What's wrong?" "Working?" She laughed, high and slightly hysterical. "Of course you are. Of course on today of all days you're off scrubbing someone's floors." "You told me not to come to your wedding," I said evenly. "So I'm working." "What's the emergency?" "The emergency is that Kevin's uncle is Richard Chen." The name hit me like cold water. I turned slowly, looking back through the glass doors at the apartment I was currently cleaning. At the framed photos on the side table I'd carefully dusted an hour ago. At the family pictures that included a younger man who looked exactly like the groom I'd seen in Melissa's engagement photos. "You're cleaning his house," Melissa continued, her voice rising. "Right now. On my wedding day. Kevin's uncle, the uncle who's hosting our reception at his estate, the uncle who offered to invest in Kevin's startup, hired you to clean his penthouse." I couldn't speak. My mind was racing, trying to process the sheer improbability of this situation. He was showing Mom and Kevin's mother pictures this morning, talking about the wonderful cleaning service he'd found. The owner who was so professional and thorough. He pulled up your company website. With your photo on it. Your name. "Melissa." Mom went white. Kevin's mother asked who you were. Mom tried to say you were just someone with a similar name, but then Richard said he'd specifically requested you for today because his assistant said you were the owner and he wanted to meet you personally to discuss a potential contract for his office buildings. The balcony seemed to tilt beneath my feet. I gripped the railing. "He mentioned that he was coming back early to meet you. That he'd be there around 1 o'clock. Melissa's voice cracked. Kevin's mother asked how Mom knew what the cleaning woman looked like. Mom tried to deflect, but Aunt Linda, stupid, drunk Aunt Linda, said of course she'd recognize her own daughter. I checked my watch. 12:47. "You need to leave," Melissa said. "Right now. Before he gets there. If he connects you to us, if Kevin's mother finds out we lied, that we have a sister we hid because she's a cleaner." She choked on something between a sob and a scream. "This will ruin everything. Kevin's mother is already upset about the deception. She's talking about how this reflects on Kevin's judgment, on our family's integrity. His father is furious." "So you want me to run away?" I said quietly. "I want you to fix this. You've already done enough damage just by existing. The least you can do is disappear before you make it worse." Something in my chest went very still. Very calm. "I'm not leaving." "What?" "I have a job to do. A client who specifically requested me. I'm a professional, Melissa. I don't abandon my commitments." "Ashley, please. You told me I was just a cleaner. That I was an embarrassment. That my presence would ruin your perfect day." I watched a pigeon land on the railing, its head cocking as if curious about this conversation. "Turns out my absence is ruining it just fine. Don't do this. I'm begging you." "Do what?" "My job? The job you're so ashamed of? I'll pay you. Whatever he's paying you, I'll double it. Just leave." I thought about that navy blue dress hanging in my closet. About the card I'd written but never sent. About every family dinner where I'd been the punchline to jokes I pretended not to hear. "I need to go," I said. "I have got to finish." I hung up while she was still talking. Blocked her number. Blocked my mother's. Blocked everyone who'd suddenly remembered I existed now that I was inconvenient in a new way. When I walked back inside, Maya looked up from where she was polishing the kitchen counters. "Everything okay?" "Fine," I said. "But we should probably work faster. The client's coming back earlier than expected." We finished the bathroom. Started on the kitchen. I was wiping down the interior of the refrigerator when I heard the door open. "Hello?" A male voice, cultured and curious. "Ashley?" I straightened, pulling off my gloves, and walked into the living room. Richard Chen was older than in the photos, maybe late 50s, with gray threading through his dark hair and expensive glasses that probably cost more than my monthly rent. He wore casual clothes, jeans and a button-down, but they fit the way things do when they're tailored. "Mr. Chen," I extended my hand. "I hope we haven't disturbed you. We're almost finished." "Please, call me Richard." His handshake was firm, warm. "I wanted to catch you before you left. I've been extremely impressed with your work. My assistant raves about your professionalism." "Thank you. We try to maintain high standards." "I can see that." He glanced around the apartment, taking in the gleaming surfaces, the careful organization. "I'm actually hosting an event this evening. A wedding reception for my nephew. Kevin Chen, do you know him? My heart hammered against my ribs, but I kept my expression neutral. Professional. I don't believe so. Lovely young man. Marrying a woman named Melissa. They're at the ceremony now, but the reception is at my estate in about, he checked his watch, 3 hours. I'm heading there shortly to make sure everything's in order. That sounds lovely. It would be, except there's been some family drama this morning, he sighed, moving toward the kitchen where Maya was packing up supplies. Turns out Melissa has a sister no one knew about. Or rather, a sister they tried to hide from Kevin's family. My sister-in-law is quite upset about the deception. I said nothing. Waited. The whole thing is rather sad, actually. This sister, Ashley, oddly enough, same name as you, apparently owns a cleaning business. Melissa and her mother were so ashamed they told everyone she was dead. Imagine being so insecure about your own family that you'd rather pretend someone doesn't exist than simply acknowledge they work an honest job. He shook his head, disgust clear in his expression. People have strange priorities, I said carefully. They do. Kevin's mother is particularly upset. She comes from very humble beginnings herself. Her father was a janitor, actually. Worked his way through night school while cleaning office buildings. She views this kind of class-based shame as a personal insult. Richard moved to the window, hands in his pockets. She's threatening to cancel the whole reception. Says she won't support a marriage built on lies and pretension. My phone buzzed incessantly in my pocket. I ignored it. The ironic thing, Richard continued, is that I've been planning to offer this Ashley a significant contract. I own 7 office buildings downtown, and my current cleaning service is unreliable. I specifically asked my assistant to find someone local, someone with excellent references and strong business ethics. Your company came highly recommended. He turned to face me, his expression thoughtful. But now I'm wondering, do you happen to have a sister named Melissa? The question hung in the air between us. I could lie. Could maintain the professional distance that had protected me my entire life. Could slip away and leave this mess for my family to untangle without me. Or I could do something different. I do, I said. Richard nodded slowly. I thought you might. You have her eyes. The shape of them, anyway, though yours are. Kinder, I think. He moved closer, his gaze steady and not unkind. I'm sorry for what they did to you. The way they treated you. It speaks very poorly of their character. Thank you. I imagine you're angry. I was. I surprised myself with the honesty. This morning I was furious. But right now I'm just tired. Tired of being ashamed of work I'm proud of. Tired of making myself smaller so other people can feel bigger. That's an exhausting way to live. It is. He studied me for a long moment. I'd still like to offer you that contract. 7 buildings, weekly service. The budget is substantial. But I understand if you'd prefer not to do business with anyone connected to your family. Business is business, I said. I'd be happy to discuss terms. Excellent. He pulled out his phone, typed something quickly. I'm sending you the details of my estate. The reception starts at 4. I think you should come. Mr. Chen, Richard, I appreciate the offer, but I don't think that's a good idea. Why not? Your family. Sort of. And more importantly, you're someone who built a successful business through hard work and determination. The kind of person whose presence would actually improve the event. He smiled, and there was something sharp in it. Something that suggested he knew exactly what he was doing. Besides, I suspect your absence is causing more problems than your presence ever would. They don't want me there. I know. But I do. And it's my reception venue. My catering. My bartenders and my string quartet. He shrugged. Call it an old man's whim. Or call it a small bit of justice for someone who deserves better than to be erased by people who should love her. My phone buzzed again. And again. I finally pulled it out, glancing at the screen. Messages from numbers I didn't recognize, all variations on the same theme. Please come to the wedding. Mom says sorry. Melissa needs you. Family is important. Family is important. I'll think about it, I told Richard. That's all I ask. He walked me to the door, where Maya and Jordan were loading the last of our supplies onto the cart. Your team does exceptional work. Thank you. After he paid, adding a tip that made Maya gasp audibly, we headed down to the van. The afternoon sun was bright and hot, turning the city into a shimmer of heat and glass. My phone had finally stopped buzzing, which somehow felt worse than the constant interruption. What was that about? Maya asked as we loaded the equipment. He seemed really interested in talking to you. Long story. Does it have to do with why you've been checking your phone every 30 seconds? I hesitated, then found myself telling her everything. About Melissa, about the wedding, about the increasingly desperate calls from my family now that my existence threatened to tank my sister's picture-perfect day. Maya listened without interrupting, her expression shifting from shock to anger to something like determination. You have to go, she said when I finished. I really don't. Yes, you do. Ashley, you've spent 5 years building this business from nothing. You work harder than anyone I know. You've created something real and good, and those people tried to erase you because they were ashamed of honest work. She grabbed my shoulders, forcing me to look at her. Go to that reception. Hold your head up. Show them exactly who you are. It'll make things worse. Good. Let it. They deserve worse. Jordan, who'd been quietly listening while organizing supplies, cleared his throat. For what it's worth, I agree with Maya. You're the best boss I've ever had. You gave me a chance when I was sleeping in my car and had a resume full of gaps. You treated me like I mattered. He shrugged, uncomfortable with the emotion. Those people should be proud of you. If they're not, that's their failure, not yours. Something in my chest cracked open. I'd spent so long trying to be invisible, to not burden anyone with my needs or my presence, that I'd forgotten what it felt like to be seen. To matter. I don't have anything to wear, I said. Maya grinned. Good thing I know a boutique that owes us a favor after we saved their showroom carpet from that wine incident. 2 hours later, I was standing in front of a mirror in a dress I never would have chosen for myself. It was green, deep emerald that somehow made my eyes look brighter, with a neckline that suggested confidence without demanding attention. Maya had insisted on doing my hair, twisting it up in a way that looked effortless but probably required skills I'd never master. I looked like someone who belonged at a fancy reception. Someone who had nothing to apologize for. Richard had sent me the address along with a note, no pressure, but there's a spot reserved for you if you decide to come. You deserve to celebrate family milestones, even if your family forgot to invite you. The estate was 40 minutes outside the city, down winding roads that gradually traded concrete for trees. I almost turned back 3 times. Convinced myself this was petty, childish, beneath me. But I kept driving, my hands steady on the wheel, my mind surprisingly quiet. The gate was open when I arrived, a valet waiting to take my car. I walked up the stone pathway toward a house that could only be called a mansion, its grounds transformed into something out of a magazine with white tents and strings of lights that would glow once the sun set. Classical music drifted through the air, mixing with the murmur of conversation and the clink of glasses. I'd expected security to stop me at the entrance, but Richard was there, greeting guests personally. His face lit up when he saw me. Ashley. I'm so glad you came. He took my hand, patting it warmly. You look lovely. Come, let me introduce you to some people. Richard, I don't want to cause a scene. You won't. But even if you did, scenes can be illuminating. He guided me into the tent, where maybe 100 people mingled beneath crystal chandeliers that had been temporarily installed for the occasion. My sister-in-law is having a conversation with Melissa and her mother right now. A rather pointed conversation about family values and integrity. I thought you might want to be here when they emerge. I scanned the crowd, recognizing no one except, there, in the corner, my Aunt Linda looking uncomfortable in a dress too tight for her frame. She saw me and went pale. How did you? She started, but I'd already moved past her. Richard introduced me to his wife first, an elegant woman with silver hair and keen eyes that seemed to assess everything at once. My dear, this is Ashley. The one I was telling you about. The cleaning business owner, she said warmly. Richard showed me your website. Very professional. We need more entrepreneurs who understand the value of quality service. Thank you. I understand today is complicated for you. Family situations often are. She squeezed my hand. But you're welcome here. Anyone who builds something from nothing has my respect. More introductions followed. Richard seemed determined to parade me around, presenting me to business owners and community leaders with a pride that should have come from my own family. Each person responded with interest, with respect, asking about my company and my plans for growth. No one looked down at me. No one treated me like I was less than. And then I heard her voice. Ashley? I turned. Melissa stood 5 feet away in her wedding dress, a confection of lace and silk that probably cost more than I'd made in the first year of my business. Her makeup was perfect but couldn't quite hide the redness around her eyes. She'd been crying. "What are you doing here?" she whispered. "Richard Chen invited me. We're discussing a business contract." "You, what?" She looked around wildly, as if searching for help, and found instead a growing circle of interested observers. "You can't be here. I told you, you told me I wasn't wanted. That I was an embarrassment." I kept my voice level, conversational. But Richard seems to think successful business owners are exactly the kind of people who should attend family celebrations. Funny how perspectives differ. "Please." Melissa moved closer, her voice dropping. "Please don't ruin this. Kevin's mother is already upset. If you make a scene..." "I'm not making a scene. I'm attending a reception I was invited to by the host. You're the one creating drama." My mother appeared then, looking older than I remembered, her face tight with anxiety. "Ashley, we need to talk. Privately." "I don't think we do." "Don't be childish. This is important." "Important now," I said. 3 months ago, you told me to disappear. To let you tell people I was dead. But I'm not dead, Mom. I'm right here. I've been here the whole time, building something real while you were building lies." Her hand shot out, gripping my arm. "You're going to destroy your sister's marriage before it even begins. Is that what you want? To punish us for one mistake?" "One mistake?" The laugh escaped before I could stop it. "You've spent my entire life treating me like a mistake. Like someone to be hidden away and apologized for. This isn't punishment. This is just me existing in the same space as you, which apparently is unforgivable. We did what we thought was best. Best for who? Certainly not for me." I pulled my arm free. "I came here tonight because Richard Chen, a man I met 6 hours ago, showed me more respect and kindness than my own family has in years. I came because I'm tired of being ashamed of work I'm proud of. I came because I deserve to be here." A woman approached our small circle, late 50s, impeccably dressed, with a kind of presence that commanded attention. I recognized her from photos as Kevin's mother. She looked at my mother with an expression of cold disappointment. "Margaret, I believe we've heard enough." Her voice cut through the murmur of conversation. "When I married into this family, I was very clear about my values. Honesty. Integrity. The recognition that a person's worth isn't determined by their job title or their income level." She turned to me. "You must be the infamous Ashley." "Yes, ma'am. I'm Helen Chen, Kevin's mother. I owe you an apology. You didn't do anything wrong. I raised a son who was willing to go along with this deception. Who didn't question when his future in-laws claimed to have no other children, who didn't demand honesty even when he suspected something was off," she sighed. "That's my failure as a parent. But I'm correcting it now." She turned to Melissa, who had started crying in earnest, mascara tracking down her cheeks. "I've told Kevin that this marriage cannot proceed until you and your family address this situation properly. Not with excuses or justifications, but with genuine acknowledgement of the hurt you've caused and a commitment to do better." Helen's voice softened slightly. "You're not a bad person, Melissa. But you've done a bad thing. And I won't watch my son build a marriage on that foundation." "No," Melissa gasped. "No, please, you can't, Kevin." Her new husband appeared, looking miserable in his tuxedo. He glanced at me, then away, shame coloring his features. "Mom, this isn't negotiable, Kevin." Helen's voice was firm. "Either we address this honestly, or we cancel the reception and you two take some time to seriously consider what kind of family you want to build. One based on truth, or one based on whatever is convenient." The crowd around us had grown, no longer even pretending not to listen. I caught sight of Richard at the edge, his expression satisfied, like a chess player watching his strategy unfold exactly as planned. My mother was white-faced. "This is absurd. You're humiliating us over something so trivial." "Trivial?" Helen turned to her. "You told your daughter she was worthless because she works an honest job. You erased her from your family rather than admit to people that not everyone needs a college degree to have value. You were willing to let her believe she was unwanted and unloved because her presence was inconvenient." She shook her head. "That's not trivial. That's cruel. And I will not tie my family to people who treat their own children with such casual disregard." "Ashley." Melissa grabbed my hand, her grip desperate. "Tell them you forgive us. Tell them we can move past this. Please." I looked at my sister, really looked at her, and saw not the confident woman she'd tried to project, but someone terrified and small, watching her perfect day crumble around her. Part of me wanted to save her. That old instinct to smooth things over, to make everyone comfortable even at my own expense. But I was tired of making myself smaller for people who'd never make room for me anyway. I can't tell them that, I said quietly. Because I'm not sure it's true. You didn't make a mistake, Melissa. You made a choice. Multiple choices. Every day for 3 months you chose to exclude me, to lie about me, to treat my existence like something shameful. That's not a mistake. That's a decision. I'm sorry, she sobbed. I'm so sorry. I was stupid and selfish, and I know I hurt you. But please, please don't let this ruin everything. I'm not ruining anything. I'm just not fixing it for you. Kevin stepped forward, his jaw tight. Ashley, it is Ashley, right? I nodded. I didn't know about any of this. Melissa told me she was an only child. When my uncle mentioned the cleaning service, when the name came up, she went white. Told me there was a sister she'd been estranged from. But she made it sound mutual. Like you'd both agreed to go separate ways. We didn't agree to anything. I was told to disappear. He closed his eyes. I'm sorry. If I'd known, would it have mattered? I asked. Would you have stood up to her? Demanded honesty? Or would you have just gone along with it because confrontation is uncomfortable? He didn't answer, which was answer enough. Helen placed a hand on her son's shoulder. We're postponing the reception. The ceremony is done, so legally you're married. But we're not celebrating until this family demonstrates they understand what they've done and takes real steps to make amends. She looked at Melissa and my mother. You have time to think about what kind of people you want to be. What kind of family you want to have. Use it wisely. She walked away, taking Kevin with her. Other guests began to disperse, some looking uncomfortable, others whispering excitedly about the drama they'd witnessed. The party was effectively over, the celebration transformed into something else entirely. My mother stood frozen, her carefully constructed world collapsing. Melissa sank into a chair, still crying, her dress pooling around her like a cloud. This is your fault, my mother said finally, her voice low and venomous. You've destroyed everything. I showed up, I replied. That's all. If that's enough to destroy everything, then maybe everything was already broken. I turned to leave, but Richard intercepted me at the edge of the tent. That took courage, he said. Or stupidity. Sometimes they're the same thing. He smiled. The contract offer stands, by the way. I meant what I said about your work. But I also want you to know, you're right. About all of it. You deserve better than what they gave you. Thank you. Will you be all right? I thought about that. About my apartment with its refurbished furniture and its quirky radiator. About my business that I built with my own hands. About Maya and Jordan and my other employees who'd become something like family. About the life I'd created that was mine, entirely mine, without apology or permission. Yeah, I said. I think I will be. I drove home as the sun set, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. My phone stayed silent. No more desperate calls, no more last-minute pleas. Just quiet. The next morning, I woke to an email from Richard Chen's assistant with contract details for his office buildings. The numbers were better than I'd hoped, enough to let me hire 3 more people and maybe finally upgrade our equipment. I sat at my kitchen table with my coffee, reading through the terms, and felt something that might have been peace. A week later, a letter arrived via certified mail. Thick, expensive stationery with Melissa's monogram embossed on the envelope. Inside, 2 pages in her careful handwriting. She apologized. Extensively. Talked about how Kevin had insisted on marriage counseling before they'd even gone on their honeymoon, how Helen had made it clear that rebuilding trust wasn't optional. She said she was ashamed. That she'd been so focused on what other people thought that she'd lost sight of what actually mattered. She didn't ask for forgiveness. Just said she hoped someday I might be willing to talk. That she wanted to understand me better, if I'd let her. That she was starting to realize how little she knew about my life, my work, my dreams. I folded the letter and put it in a drawer. Maybe I'd respond someday. Maybe not. The decision could wait. What couldn't wait was a consultation I had scheduled that afternoon, a potential new client who'd heard about my work from Richard Chen. Another business owner looking for reliable, quality service. Another opportunity to do work I was proud of. I packed my supplies carefully, did a final check of my appearance in the mirror. The woman looking back at me was someone I recognized now. Someone who didn't need anyone else's validation to know her worth. My phone rang as I was heading out the door. Melissa's number. I let it go to voicemail, then paused, listening to the message. Hey. It's me. I know you might not want to talk, And that's okay. I just wanted you to know that Mom and I enrolled in family therapy. Helen, Kevin's mom, recommended someone. She said we need to understand why we acted the way we did before we can fix it. A long pause, the sound of breath being drawn. I've been thinking about all the times I took you for granted. All the times I let Mom make you feel small because it was easier than standing up for you. I can't undo any of that. But I want to do better. I want to be someone worthy of having a sister like you. Her voice cracked. I saw your website. Really looked at it this time. Read the testimonials, saw the photos of your team. You built something amazing, Ashley. I'm sorry I couldn't see that before. I'm sorry I let shame and fear blind me to what was right in front of me. She said goodbye. Said she'd try again later, but wouldn't push. That she understood if I needed space. Time. Distance. I saved the voicemail. Not because I was ready to forgive, but because maybe someday I'd want to remember this moment. The moment when my family finally started to see me as I actually was, not as they decided I should be. For now, though, I had work to do. A business to run. A life to live that was entirely my own choosing. I locked my apartment door and headed down to my van, where Maya was already waiting with our supplies loaded and the schedule pulled up on her tablet. She grinned when she saw me. Ready to make some houses sparkle? Always, I said. And for the first time in longer than I could remember, I meant it. The work was honest. The work was mine. And that, I was learning, was more than enough. 3 weeks passed before I heard from Melissa again. Not through calls or messages this time, but in person. She appeared at my office, a modest space above a dry cleaner where I handled scheduling and bookkeeping, on a Tuesday afternoon when the autumn rain had turned the streets into mirrors of reflected neon and brake lights. I was reviewing supply orders when the door chimed. I glanced up, expecting one of my employees, and froze when I saw her standing there dripping rainwater onto my worn linoleum floor. She looked different. Smaller somehow, without the armor of designer clothes and professional makeup. She wore jeans and a simple sweater, her hair pulled back in a ponytail that reminded me of when we were kids. Your address was on your website, she said, answering the question I hadn't asked. I should have called first. But I thought if I called, you might tell me not to come. I might have, I admitted. She nodded, accepting this. Can we talk? Just for a few minutes. If you want me to leave after that, I will. I should have said no. Should have protected the peace I'd carefully constructed over the past few weeks. But curiosity won out, or maybe it was something deeper, that stubborn hope that lives in the space between anger and forgiveness. Sit down, I said, gesturing to the folding chair across from my desk. She sat carefully, perching on the edge like she might need to flee. Her hands twisted together in her lap, and I noticed she wasn't wearing her wedding ring. I didn't comment on it. Kevin and I are separated, she said, following my gaze. Not divorced. Just taking time. His mother suggested it. Said we needed to figure out who we were individually before we could build something together. She laughed, but there was no humor in it. Turns out marrying someone when you're lying about who your family is doesn't create a solid foundation. Who knew? I'm sorry, I said, and surprised myself by meaning it. Don't be. It's probably the smartest thing either of us has done in months. She looked around my office, taking in the filing cabinets, the wall calendar marked with appointments, the framed business license that had felt like such an achievement when I'd first hung it. This is nice. Very organized. It has to be. Can't run a business on chaos. No, I suppose not. She met my eyes then, and I saw exhaustion there. The kind that comes from facing truths you've spent years avoiding. I've been going to therapy. Twice a week. Helen insisted, and she was right too. I've been talking about you a lot. About us. About Mom. I waited, letting her find her words. The therapist asked me to write down every memory I had of you from our childhood. Good ones, bad ones, everything. I filled 3 notebooks. Her voice caught. 3 notebooks of memories that I'd somehow convinced myself didn't matter. Birthdays where Mom forgot to get you a cake. Christmas mornings where your presents were clearly afterthoughts. The time you won that essay contest in middle school and Mom didn't even come to the ceremony because she had a hair appointment. Melissa, let me finish. Please. She took a shaky breath. I wrote it all down, and then I had to read it out loud in therapy. Every single memory. And as I was reading, I kept trying to justify it. To explain why Mom acted that way, why I went along with it. But there was no justification. Just pattern after pattern of us treating you like you were less important. less worthy of attention and love and celebration. Rain drummed against the window behind me, filling the silence between her words. I told myself I was protecting you when I uninvited you from the wedding, she continued. That I was saving you from potential embarrassment, from people who might judge you. But I was really just ashamed. Ashamed that my little sister had a job I considered beneath me. Ashamed that I couldn't brag about you the way other people bragged about their siblings. She wiped at her eyes. I was ashamed of you for having exactly the qualities I should have admired. Independence. Work ethic. The ability to build something from nothing. Why are you telling me this now? Because you deserve to hear it. Because I need to say it out loud to someone other than my therapist. She leaned forward. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I know I don't deserve that. But I wanted you to know that I understand what I did. How badly I hurt you. And that I'm trying to become someone different. Someone better. I studied her face, looking for manipulation or performance, but found only raw honesty. It would have been easier if she'd come here making excuses, demanding reconciliation. This vulnerable truth was harder to dismiss. What about Mom? I asked. Melissa's expression darkened. She's struggling with the therapy. Keeps insisting she did nothing wrong. That she was just trying to give us both the best possible lives, and sometimes that meant making hard choices. She shook her head. The therapist called her out on that. Asked her to explain how erasing one daughter from existence qualified as wanting the best for both of us. Mom walked out of the session. Is she going back? She has to if she wants any relationship with me. Helen made that clear too. No real accountability, no access to Kevin and me when we figure things out. Melissa smiled sadly. Turns out Kevin's family takes integrity seriously. It's refreshing and terrifying at the same time. I thought about my own next therapy appointment. Yes, I'd started going to, working through decades of feeling invisible and unwanted. My therapist had encouraged me to set boundaries, to protect the life I'd built. But she'd also talked about leaving doors open, not locked but not thrown wide either. Open enough to see what might walk through. I'm glad you're doing the work, I said finally. I mean that. Thank you. She stood, shouldering her purse. I know you're busy. I should go. Melissa. She paused at the door. I'm not ready for regular contact. I'm not ready to pretend everything's fine or to go back to how things were. But maybe we could get coffee sometime. In a few months. When we've both had more time. Her face transformed with hope so sudden and bright it almost hurt to witness. Really? Maybe. No promises. But maybe. That's more than I deserve. Thank you. She opened the door, letting in the sound of rain and traffic. For what it's worth, I looked at your reviews online. Your clients love you. You've created something really special here. I'm proud of you, even if I have no right to be. After she left, I sat at my desk for a long time, watching the rain trace patterns down the window. The anger I'd carried for weeks felt different now. Not gone, but transformed into something more complex. Something that included grief for what we'd lost and hadn't been, alongside a tentative curiosity about what might still be possible. My phone buzzed with a text from Maya, new client just called. Another referral from Richard Chen. This is the fourth one this month. You're going to need to hire a full scheduling coordinator at this rate. I smiled, typing back, start looking at resumes. We're growing. Growth. That's what I'd been doing all along, even when my family tried to keep me small. Growing my business, my confidence, my understanding of my own worth. And now, maybe, there was room to grow towards something else. Not reconciliation exactly, but something more honest than what we'd had before. The next morning, I had a consultation at a sprawling house in the suburbs. The potential client was a woman in her 60s who opened the door with a warm smile and a firm handshake. You must be Ashley. Come in, please. I'm Barbara. She led me through rooms that spoke of a life well lived, photos of grandchildren, bookshelves crammed with worn paperbacks, a kitchen that showed signs of frequent cooking. As we discussed her needs and my services, she mentioned she'd heard about me through Helen Chen. Helen and I serve on a nonprofit board together, Barbara explained. She couldn't stop talking about the young woman who ran her own cleaning business. Said you were exactly the kind of entrepreneur we should be supporting. She poured us both tea without asking. She also mentioned some family difficulties you'd faced recently. I hope I'm not overstepping, but I wanted you to know, I think what you did took tremendous courage. Standing up for yourself? Refusing to be erased. Barbara handed me a delicate china cup. I had a sister who tried something similar with me years ago. Different circumstances, but the same basic shame about where I came from, what I did. She wanted me to pretend I didn't exist at her country club functions, said my work as a nurse's aide was embarrassing. What did you do? I stopped trying to have a relationship with her. For 20 years, we didn't speak. She reached out eventually, after our mother died and she had no family left to impress. By then, I'd built my own life. My own community. Barbara smiled. We talk now, occasionally. Holiday cards, the odd phone call. But we'll never be close. Some bridges, once burned, can't be fully rebuilt. You can construct something new in their place, but it won't ever be the same. Her words settled over me like a truth I needed to hear. Not every story ended in redemption. Not every family wound healed completely. Sometimes the best you could hope for was honest acknowledgement and careful distance. Thank you, I said. For sharing that. We survivors have to stick together. She winked. Now, about your services, I think weekly visits would be ideal. And I have 3 friends who've been complaining about their current cleaning company. May I pass along your information? By the time I left Barbara's house, I had a new contract and 3 potential referrals. My business was thriving in ways I'd barely dared to imagine when I'd started with that single vacuum cleaner and a prayer. I'd built this. Not with family support or connections or inherited money, but with my own determination and refusal to accept that my worth was determined by others' perceptions. That evening, I treated myself to dinner at a restaurant I'd always been too intimidated to enter, the kind with cloth napkins and a wine list I didn't understand. I sat alone at a table by the window, ordered confidently, and savored every bite of food I'd earned with my own labor. Around me, couples and families laughed and talked, but I didn't feel lonely. I felt present. Whole. My phone buzzed halfway through dessert. A message from an unknown number, "This is Kevin. I got your number from Richard. I hope that's okay. I wanted to apologize personally for not questioning the story Melissa told me about being an only child. I should have pushed harder for the truth. You deserved better, and I'm sorry I didn't insist on it. I hope your business continues to thrive. Kevin." I read it twice, then sent back a simple response, "Thank you for the apology. I wish you and Melissa the best as you figure things out." I didn't know if their marriage would survive. Didn't know if my relationship with Melissa would ever be more than cordial distance. But I knew, with absolute certainty, that I would be fine either way. I'd learned to build my life on a foundation of my own making, and that foundation held steady regardless of who chose to stand on it with me. The work was honest. The work was mine. And that was more than enough.